Okay, today we are installing our steering wheel, aftermarket steering wheel, in the Volvo Amazon. These are the things that you're going to need. I've got my Nuovo Raid, made in Italy, wooden steering wheel. Got that for like 20 bucks on eBay. This is the Grant 4405 kit that goes to the old Jeeps. They have the same spline count as the steering on these cars. We have our horn and our little collar there. There's actually another one in here. I think this doesn't have the horn, but it might have the collar. But that's just one I've had sitting around. And this is a 2-inch spacer because my steering wheel is flat, like that. And the original Amazon steering wheel is about 2 inches from where it mounts to where you grab the handles. And so you don't want your hands bumping up against the dashboard, which is why you have a spacer. The spacer here also acts as an adapter. Because I've got a 6-hole steering wheel, this is a 3 to 6-hole adapter. There's 2 patterns on it. I think one of them is for a 5-hole setup, so it's technically a 5 to 6-hole. It's made out of aluminum, pretty shiny. I like it. It's clean. So we're going to pull that steering wheel and get started. And just to show you how much off the steering wheel is at the moment. Yeah. There's 2 screws on the back. Real easy. You'll take those out and then you'll be able to get to that nut in the middle. Also want to show you this horrible squeak that happens. More so when it's cold. I don't want to turn it too much because I already got my wheel straight, but you can kind of get the idea. And there's a lot of play in the steering too. I need to replace my steering box. They can be adjusted, but I have one that's already been rebuilt, so I'm just going to put that in. This cover's off. You've got your access to your nut here. Let me double check the size on that. And 1/4. That's the size of the socket you're going to need. This is the horn cable. It just sort of sits in the hollow shaft there. So undo this and pull our wheel. Yeah, I was having issues with that. So I'm glad to get rid of this now. Put your puller here, and the centerpiece will go in there. Make sure you keep your wire either tucked in there or just hopefully as much out of the way as possible. Out, we're going to want to clean these threads. I heard a story last month of somebody on their 122, their steering wheel actually stripped these threads. So make sure there's no debris in there, and if you want you can grease them up a little bit. And then we will get to installing our new wheel. Also want to check to make sure everything looks good back here. I'm missing 1 screw on top. That's probably what was causing that rubbing. So I'm going to replace that. Keep this cover solid. Make sure it's lined up straight and flat. And put our new wheel on. Other steering wheel adapter didn't want to fit, so I'm using this one instead. This is just a generic 3-hole steering wheel. It's a bit smaller, a bit uglier, but I figured until I get the right adapter, I might as well install the piece that threads in there and with the nut. Let me show you what I've got. That's my adapter there. It slides in over the threads. The steering wheel is next. And then there's a cover that is the, not really the springboard, but basically where the horn mounts to it, which then has a spring and goes to the horn cap. And then I put the 3 bolts in there to hold it. And let's see what's next. So using a 32mm socket, I pounded it in like that until the threads matched up all the way. And that was after having it sort of loosely bolted to the steering wheel like I had in the last clip, so that I could get it straight, because you can see that there's no like clear definitive. I mean, if you go with like maybe that little spot up there, but other than that, these things are not really lined up in any specific way to give you an up or top direction to go with. There's a lot of problems with these older Volvos. It's like they don't want you to have an aftermarket steering wheel. First of all, I had to remount the hole on the wheel because it wouldn't clear the shaft. Second of all, this nut is so big that it's a real pain in the butt to even get these in there. These have a shoulder which keeps this plate loose, and that plate essentially is loaded on a spring, which is pushed out with the horn, and it is the ground for the horn. So I have this wire here that'll connect in there and connect that to here. So when I push the horn, it grounds it out up to there. So another problem is that this piece, the fiber with the other side that has metal on it, here I have another one to demonstrate. I had to remount a lot of it because the nut was so big it didn't want to fit in the middle there. So I'm sitting here with a file, kind of working away at it. According to the instructions, this center nut should be sufficient enough to hold the wheel if tightened properly. That's their big if liability there. And then having these, I did tighten them. They're not all the way down there because I couldn't, I ran out of thread at some point. The way that they kind of butt up against this one, they're not going to get loose because this guy is keeping them in place, and I didn't want to round them too badly. So they are in mostly. I'm going to get a wrench and try to go a little more with them. But like I said, those shoulders are there. These aren't what's keeping the wheel intact completely, but it does help to have them there, and this kind of does act as a lock nut. So if you get through all that, it takes a lot of time, and it's very frustrating, but it helps. Because this should look pretty good in the end. Our spring in place, the wire passes through the side of the spring as per the instructions. This cap will go in there, and there are 3 little nubs. They will line up to the 3 little nubs on this fiber ring, and then twist it just slightly to lock it in place. Let's see. Looks like my cap might be pretty sideways. I'll see if I can get it to be straight. But at this point, like I said, this is temporary until I get that wooden wheel on there. It really is a shame. Alright. I'm going to need 2 hands for this, I think. But essentially, this should be beep, 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 beep. We'll find out when the key's in. So with these put in, one of two things is going to happen. Either I did it wrong, and it's going to beep constantly, or I did it right, and it will only beep when the horn is depressed. Here we go. Nice. All right. Solid. There's not a lot of, there's a little play in the steering shaft, but not in the junction there, so. Finally I have a horn. It's been, 3 years with that old wheel there. Cool. Hope this helps.